we expected to see some structures burned and so forth and some damage, but we were not prepared for what we saw.
Look at this.
What we saw looked like an area that had been bombed and burned in a war zone. It was unbelievable. I've flown on Maui for 52 years, and all the different fires and things that we've had going on here in 52 years, I've never seen anything 1/100th as the devastation there.
Oh my gosh, look at the harbor.
Yeah, I don't even know what to say about it.
Oh my gosh.
There's hundreds of homes leveled down to the ground. The historic section of the town is destroyed. All the historic buildings. Lahaina used to be the capital of all of Hawaii. Even the boats in the harbor were burned down to the water. They're gone. So the whole front street of Lahaina, all the shops, the businesses are all gone.
Unbelievable. This looks like Baghdad or something.
All those that were working in those retail areas and restaurants and so forth, there's no business anymore. This will be a devastating effect, not just on Maui, but the whole state economy. It looks like a bomb went off, or it looks like the whole area was bombed. It looks like a war zone.
We heard you say earlier that you just were not prepared for what you ultimately saw. Of course, Lahaina is not only a popular tourist destination, it was the capital of the Hawaiian kingdom and is now a national history. We begin with the urgent situation in Hawaii as a fast-moving and deadly inferno has sparked a desperate evacuation. Some people literally jumping into the Pacific Ocean to try to escape the approaching flames. The wildfire on the island of Maui exploded in size after gusty mountain winds were amplified by Hurricane Dora, which is moving across the Pacific hundreds of miles to the south. The stark reality tonight, at least 6 people are dead and parts of the town of Lahaina and its historic district, which is very significant to Native Hawaiians, have burnt to the ground. People who call this place home for generations may now lose their homes, and there are those who thought that they would have a peaceful vacation in a place some call paradise instead.
6 fires erupting on the islands of Maui and Hawaii Tuesday, destroying hundreds of homes and businesses, forcing mass evacuations, at least a dozen people jumping into the ocean to get away in Lahaina.
Lahaina is on fire.
Apocalyptic scenes in that popular tourist town and historic cultural landmark home to 12,000 people. Steve Scott desperately trying to fight back the flames. And you were essentially trapped in the middle of the fire.
Right. I was with a hose, shooting it up, trying to protect our building, and plantation house, all of that blew up.
Lahaina's iconic Front Street, with buildings dating back to the 1700s, ravaged by flames.
It looked like an area that had been bombed in a war.
Authorities saying 911 services down in some areas. Hospitals are overwhelmed with burn patients.
It looks like a bomb went off, or it looks like the whole area was bombed. It looks like a war zone.
We heard you say earlier that you just were not prepared for what you ultimately saw.
The island of Maui have been burned to the ground. Firefighters are still trying to get the fires under control. Reports say some people jumped into the ocean to escape the flames. Take a look at these pictures. They are the aftermath of one of the worst affected areas. Officials said they're still struggling to assess the full extent of the damage, and they've warned the death toll may rise further. Richard Galpin reports.
The satellite image on the left of the town of Lahaina was taken last month. The one on the right, yesterday. The extent of the damage is clear. As well as the deaths, dozens of people have been injured since the fires began burning on Tuesday, and hospitals on the island are treating patients for burns and smoke inhalation.
And to make sure you're safe, make sure you have a plan.
The White House has issued a message of condolence from President Joe Biden, praising the work of firefighters, and ordered all available federal assets on the island to help with the response.
Devastating wildfires in Maui and the death toll climbing overnight. At least 36 people are now dead, and mass evacuations are underway right now.
Gio Benitez is live on the ground.
Oh my God.
This morning, a desperate attempt to save anything left behind after that out-of-control inferno in one of Maui's most beloved areas, Lahaina. The wildfires erupting across the islands of Maui and Hawaii Tuesday, killing at least 36 and burning through 600 acres so far, at least 271 structures damaged or destroyed.
It was pitch black.
To escape the flames, more than a dozen people jumping into the ocean at Lahaina Harbor.
We've recovered 14 people so far from the water. Primarily, it's been focused in a search and rescue posture at this time.
Aerials showing the extent of the damage, rows of incinerated homes. Authorities saying 911 services down in some areas, hampering rescue efforts. The completely uncontained fire destroying historic cultural landmarks across the bustling town, home to 12,000 people.
Oh my God.
Driving past burning homes and walls of fire, for some, this is what the harrowing escape from Maui looked like.
Let's go!
The historic town of Lahaina in ruins. Nearly 300 homes, businesses, and landmarks swallowed by flames and engulfed in smoke.
Be careful right here. There's debris.
The apocalyptic scene here unfolding in West Maui before sunrise Wednesday. Flames spreading onto boats and pouring into the ocean, while the desperate plunged into the Pacific to escape the inferno.
I was the last one off the dock when the firestorm came through the banyan tree and took everything with it.
As the Coast Guard plucked roughly a dozen people out of the water, more victims overwhelmed hospitals with serious burns. As 80-mile-per-hour winds fanned the flames, air support was grounded for hours.
Oh my God.
911 service and cell phone coverage was also down, creating chaos amid the panic. And the true extent of the damage is unknown. These dramatic before and after photos capturing a glimpse of the changed landscape. This morning, a tropical paradise turned into a hellish landscape as Mother Nature's beauty and its fury come face to face.
Familiar with over the last 2 days, actually, since the fire broke out, when we knew there would be some need. That's the benefit of having some of these relationships. What it will do, it will open up incredible resources for recovery, for rebuilding homes and property and infrastructure. It will make possible low to no interest loans, I believe, for small businesses. A lot of businesses were destroyed. Now it's going to be well over 300, I'm sure, structures that were either completely destroyed or partially damaged. Many of them were small businesses. They will need our help. We'll need to rebuild the entirety of Lahaina, I believe, although I'll see it in person with Senator Schatz and the mayor this morning. But that's why you get that federal emergency released. We also will be expediting, to the extent that we can, people's insurance claims. That's another benefit of having an emergency declared like this. There's so many needs. We, of course, declared a state emergency, and I was very proud of our team that did all of that work as I was traveling back. Now comes the hard work, which is going to be rebuild. Let me, before I go any further, mahalo the incredible work of the firefighters and the first responders and all of the mayor's staff over on Maui, and to some extent Big Island too, of course.
About Lahaina. If you've never been to Maui, Lahaina is a historic area on Maui that's filled with lots of old restaurants and shops, a very touristy area. He says that area, for the most part, is decimated by this wildfire. In fact, he said it's like a bomb went off. He says there's nothing for about 2 miles but just scorched earth.
In a war zone. It was unbelievable. I've flown on Maui for 52 years, and all the different fires and things that we've had going on here in 52 years, I've never seen anything 1/100th as the devastation there.
About 2,100 people spent the night in 3 Maui shelters. As the 3 fires are still burning, officials warn the death toll could rise.
Cars were stuck in heavy traffic on the roads, and you can barely see that sky through the thick smoke with no apparent end in sight.
And some more video from Maui showing someone recording as they almost get struck with debris.
And there goes the house I lived in.
As wind and fires downed power lines, this charred shopping center was turned into a ghost town.
The wind was so intense.
76-year-old William Bugle says he was burned on his arm when the roof blew off his house and he was hit by red-hot shingles.
You saw this fire grow out of control because of the wind.
It went from like nothing to like I felt this heat, this tremendous heat.
Despite promised help from both federal and state agencies, Maui's relative isolation could slow the island's recovery.
Among the evacuees who jumped into the ocean to escape the blaze, a 7-year resident of the island, Sean Doherty, and his girlfriend.
At one point, it seemed like I might drown a little bit. I inhaled a lot of water.
He attempted to get out of the water, but the hot pavement burned his feet, leaving him with second-degree burns.
But every season's a little different, and unfortunately, if you have strong windy conditions in the same setup, but no fire is created, then you don't have these problems. But anytime you have these situations, any fire would definitely can spread out of control pretty quickly. Have seen these, but it's not often.
Robert, are there any active fires right now? Are they all?
Forrest Thomas and Kira Beltran tell us that they were on their sailboat anchored at Mala Wharf on Tuesday night when they started to see the fire grow. They felt a sudden rush of hot air coming from the town, and just as they were about to push off the dock, they say Front Street erupted in flames.
We pushed off the dock, and within 10 minutes, like 5-10 minutes of leaving the dock, Front Street wasn't on fire, and it was like a match. It just lit on fire. It was 40-foot flames shooting off of Front Street. I can't really find the words to describe how bad it was. I've never seen anything like that. It ripped through that town like it was like a blast furnace. It just took down building after building.
Approximately 100 people in the water.
The fire devastation across the island of Maui is staggering, with at least 55 people dead and another number of great concern, 1,000 still missing.
Street after street of paradise lost. The historic town of Lahaina reduced to rubble, twisted metal and smoking ruins. Homes, apartments, restaurants, all levelled.
It's heartbreaking. It's totally heartbreaking, and I mean, it looks like a war zone.
Lives and livelihoods taken. The pain and anger is raw.
Still get dead bodies in the water floating, and I feel like we're not getting the help we need. Oh my God.
And for those returning to see the devastation, there's heartbreak.
It's tragic. A lot of people I know lost everything down here, and
new footage shows the sheer force inside the firestorm, flames raining down on Front Street, which was the heartbeat of this historic town. This right here is the scene of so much tragedy. This is Front Street in Lahaina, where 2 days ago the fire tore through. You can see behind almost everywhere you look, there is just utter devastation. Homes that have been burnt to the ground. Trees that have been bent and crumbled and crashed amid the heat of the fire, signs, metal, twisted. And these cars we understand were driven here by people who were fleeing for their lives as the fire raced closer to the water's edge. They got out of their cars to jump into the water to try and save themselves. And what's left behind is the twisted metal, the tragedy, and just so much devastation. A passenger captured this bird's eye view of the blaze. Satellite images show what's left.
We are going to need to house thousands of people.
Thick black smoke just in the property next to ours.
Do you know if your house is still standing?
No, I don't think it is.
1,700 homes gone, and the death toll still climbs.
We don't know how many people we have dead. When this is all said and done, we just don't know.
Much of Lahaina is gone, but tonight the 150-year-old banyan tree, a landmark and symbol of Maui's culture, is badly singed, but still stands, as those who survived vow to regroup, rebuild and recover. In Maui, Jonathan Kersley, 9 News. And it's also drive behind me. They are pouring through wreckage. They are sadly looking for victims, but also ways that they can help. Tomorrow, this roadblock behind me is expected to reopen. That will allow the hundreds of people we have seen lining up here today, residents.
I'm still in a little bit of shock. Everything happened so quickly and out of nowhere. You know, we never thought it would grow to what it had grown into.
As wildfires burned around him, Bosco Bay Jr. just escaped with his life. He spoke to us from the Walmart in central Maui.
I mean, we were face to face with fire. I could feel the heat burning, you know, the hairs on my skin. I lost the bottom of my eyelashes. Every single thing around us was on fire, except our building, all my possessions. I mean, everything I basically, you know, have in the world at this point might be gone.
For 2 days now, these deadly massive wildfires have ravaged the island, spurred on by hurricane winds.
This was a home.
Forcing thousands to evacuate.
I've been here 48 years.
It's the deadliest wildfire to strike Hawaii, killing at least 53 people. Authorities estimate around 1,000 people are missing and fear the death toll will continue to rise.
This place has felt like home from the second I got here.
Bosco Bay Jr., an Air Force vet who moved to Lahaina 2 months ago, was desperately fighting the inferno for an hour and a half. He says he was one of the last people to escape from the area.
It was nobody on the road, nothing but darkness. Every building left and right seemed like it was on fire. Navigated around down.
The wildfire's destruction centered here in Lahaina, where my colleague Gio Benitez got a first-hand look at the aftermath.
Block after block, just homes. These were once homes, amazing homes right here on Front Street. Over here, we have the famous Front Street apartments, and these are just totally burned down.
Anchor David Ono of our Los Angeles station, KABC, on the ground here, too.
Right here behind me is a classic Lahaina neighborhood, and as you can see, the devastation is vast. Many, many homes on this one city block have gone up in flames.
The beloved National Historic Landmark decimated. Rubble covered in soot and ash is all that's left. This once bustling district now a ghost town.
To give perspective, it is going to take many years to rebuild Lahaina.
Aerial photos showing the lush landscape of what Lahaina looked like before and the catastrophic aftermath, smoke choking the town, now razed to the ground.
When I see the aerials.
Shaw runs the Maui Museum, and she says what Lahaina has lost is irreplaceable.
Lahaina was a huge place for our identity. The things that we've lost in Lahaina is so emotional.
On the other side of the island, in Kula, about an hour away from Lahaina, devastation from a different fire.
A tree fell over, hit the power lines, and that's what started the fire.
Sabrina Fellman's home was burned. All that's left fits in this plastic bag. But she and her husband Andre had lost their wedding rings too. Andre digging with his bare hands trying to find them. An hour later. Any luck with the ring?
Yes.
You found it? Both? Oh, can we see?
At least one. We're still looking
Oh
for a young
my gosh.
It doesn't look like much right now.
Wow.
But it's here.
Wow.
You can even see the engravings.
Authorities still don't know what sparked the flames, but experts say low humidity, dry vegetation, and gusts of up to 85 miles an hour fueled the spread of the deadly inferno.
Churches, schools, cemeteries. It's hard for me to wrap my head around. And
hallowed relics they can't get back.
Everyone needs to understand.
It's still paradise, and we'll rebuild, and it'll become bigger and better like anything that rises from the ashes. And that's what I truly believe.
Town full of residents, full of visitors, turned into a ghost town. There are no more buildings. Cars are still in the road, some with doors open, indicating people had to run. And what's left is very little of what it used to be. Clear the debris and to rebuild. We absolutely will. We will rebuild.
Extreme winds factored into the tragic fires on the Hawaiian island of Maui. In fact, the wind field surrounding Hurricane Dora was squeezed up against an unusually strong high pressure up to the north as well, and that was helping to fan some of the winds.
Yeah, and meteorologist Robert Bolin from the National Weather Service office in Honolulu joins us now.
You know, unfortunately, we don't have a lot of run for these situations. So even if it's near the top of the mountain, it can very quickly, in a strong wind environment, spread down into communities. And the fire folks don't have time to react.
Well, we know that you've been very, very busy. Our hearts and our thoughts.
Right, everything's gone.
The widespread devastation from the deadly wildfires in Maui continues today.
Oh my God.
As at least 3 wildfires are still burning out of control. The wind-whipped infernos moving fast across the island. Nearly 300 structures destroyed. Evacuation efforts difficult with only one road in and one way out. Tourists are trying to get back home to safe.
Contained, and 1,100 acres had burned. It's safe to assume more acres have burned since then. The wind is also dying down up here. It was relentless earlier, almost falling over, but it's improving a lot, so that's good. We went over to Kulalani and Ainokula areas earlier this afternoon. Homes were completely burned to the ground, including cars. There were some homes right next door that were okay. The girl I spoke to, whose house was intact, said that she had put water on her roof before she evacuated her home and believes that's why her house was okay, but her neighbor's wasn't. And we spoke to another woman who said the community really came together and doused her whole entire house with water, and her house was okay as well. And then, of course, we have our evacuees from Lahaina who came up country and stayed at families' homes. And here's what And I'm having Mosh look at that rainbow because that's the best thing I've probably seen all day.
This was a home. There's their car.
Maui, in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, is the second largest of the Hawaiian Islands. These are the major areas burning out of control, including its main town, Lahaina, which has all but been destroyed. Satellite pictures, this is Lahaina just 2 months ago, reveal the devastating extent of the damage. This was yesterday. Look at that difference. Much of the town now reduced to ash.
Let's go!
The fires ripped through Maui at such speed there was little time to flee.
There's fire through there! Go!
These residents recorded their own terrifying escape, showing why this has been so deadly.
You need to go, bro. Yeah, go, go, go!
The only road out, a rapidly narrowing corridor, as smoke and flames quickly close in. Anyone who had not been able to get out was completely surrounded by a ring of fire now wrapped around this Hawaiian island.
Looking at the destruction here, letting Maui know what's going on.
Rescue teams are still trying to get in.
This is like a war zone.
Even experienced pilots are shocked by the scale of devastation.
Oh my gosh.
Satellite images show what was and what's been lost. Community after community, almost wiped off the map. This was someone's home, now reduced to ashes.
Jonathan Vigliotti has made his way to the island of Maui, where officials say a wildfire has destroyed more than 270 structures.
We were able to gain access to the town late last night, and what we saw was pure devastation. One survivor describing the flames as burning so hot they appeared white, and they destroyed everything in their path from homes to hotels. As you mentioned, the death toll right now, 36, but there is concern this morning that number will only rise.
On Maui's western shore, this was Lahaina's historic Front Street business district before the wildfires.
Oh my gosh, look at the harbor.
And this was the devastation left behind Wednesday morning. Alan Dakar went to check on his gallery and was stunned to find the business district up in flames.
And then realized needed to leave because that fire was raging out of control.
What we found there was utter devastation. Homes reduced to cinders, a way of life forever altered. A distant hurricane brought wind gusts of up to 70 miles per hour, fueling several large wildfires so quickly the Coast Guard says it rescued 14 people, including 2 young children who were forced to jump in the ocean to escape the flames. Terrifying images out of a Maui neighborhood. Home after home swallowed by fast-moving flames Tuesday night as residents scrambled to escape.
Somebody's down right here. Oh. Somebody's down right here. Somebody's down.
On Maui's western shore, this was Lahaina's historic Front Street business district before the wildfires.
New video from the Hawaii National Guard. 2 CH-47 helicopters were used to battle the fires in Kihei and Kula. They dipped buckets into reservoirs and dropped the water onto the fire lines in an attempt to slow the flames.
On scene at the Lahaina fire, monitoring the area by air and assisting in rescues and evacuations. On Tuesday evening, a crew rescued 14 people from the Lahaina Harbor breakwall. We are told they are in stable condition. The Coast Guard also released these photos of the aftermath of the deadly fire.
To survey Lahaina today, Green was scheduled to have arrived in Hawaii last night after cutting a personal trip short. Lieutenant Governor Sylvia Luke joined the United States Coast Guard for an aerial damage assessment yesterday in her role as acting governor while Green was out of town. Now, this is video from that flight. Luke called the scene sobering and heartbreaking. Meanwhile, the Army has deployed 2 Black Hawk helicopters and 1 Chinook helicopter to support firefighting operations. The Navy sent choppers over for search and rescue operations. Now, happening today, a disaster team from the Federal Emergency Management Agency will arrive on Maui. The area has been declared a disaster zone. FEMA's team will take a closer look at the damage in hopes of securing federal funding. Now, keep in mind, we're eligible for federal reimbursement of up to 75% of the eligible firefighting costs. The Hawaii Emergency Management Agency, HAEMA, coordinated the request for assistance. They'll work with FEMA to identify and track eligible costs.
3 storm. And then the other thing we were looking at is a very strong ridge of high pressure just to the north of the islands. That created a very strong trade wind, and that's what really brought those gusty winds to the islands, including Maui. The good news is
But I was off Tuesday and had some friends texting me, hey, do you have power up there? Do you have power? We've lost all the power. It's windy. So they closed a lot of the businesses, and within 3 or 4 hours, the town was gone. The fire started, and Kevin, it happened so fast. I had one of my coworkers, her family's in town, and they were just eating over there at her apartment. And they looked outside and they saw the smoke. They thought the fire was kind of far enough away that they'd leave, if it got a little closer. And within about 10 to 15 minutes, it was within a half a mile of their house. And they literally ran and evacuated, but saw their house burn as they left town. And so it happened very quickly. Within a couple hours, the whole town was gone, man. There's nothing left. The businesses are gone. I've got six people staying with me that all lost their individual houses and apartments. There's nothing left of the town, man. It's gone.
It does appear like a bomb and fire went off.
Despite losing one of Maui's most beloved towns, Hawaii's governor is hopeful for Lahaina's future.
It is going to take many years to rebuild Lahaina. It will be a new Lahaina that Maui builds in its own image.
Jonathan, I want to talk more about this lack of an emergency siren. I mean, I was just reading on the Associated Press, Hawaii boasts what the state describes as the largest integrated outdoor all-hazard public safety warning system in the world. And here we've got your reporting and the reporting from the AP that says there was no indication warning sirens sounded before people ran for their lives. They tried to use mobile phones and radio stations, but the power and cellular outages may have limited the reach. I mean, this is infuriating. And I mean, what is the governor saying about this?
It's infuriating and unbelievable. The governor and officials during a press conference yesterday said evacuation notices did go out, but it was unclear what the time frame for that was. And we do know that a timeline has been requested several times by reporters that were there in the room. At this point, officials aren't giving a timeline. It is baffling because everyone we have spoken with, and we've spoken with many people, they all describe the same scene of chaos. Many people were in their homes, didn't even know there was a fire burning in their town until it reached their own neighborhoods. That's why we have heard of dozens of people fleeing on foot into the Pacific Ocean to save their lives. It is very eerily reminiscent of the fire in Paradise, California in 2018. Back then, the code red system there did not work. Many people did not get that notification in time, and it appears that's exactly what happened here. And it may be responsible for why so many people died. That death toll, we are told, could significantly rise in the days to come.
Authorities said today 80% of that fire is contained.
Crews have been hosing down hot spots and working with heavy machinery operators, targeting smoldering piles of debris. We've all heard the stories of people fleeing the fire on Tuesday by running into the ocean.
Tonight, some video has just surfaced showing people in the water. Take a look. This is our first look at what it was like for these people, fearing for their lives. Witnesses said even before the flames and the thick smoke, the intense heat pushed them back. The Coast Guard ended up rescuing more than a dozen people from the
Maui's police chief says besides verifying fatalities, the county is still trying to find about 1,000 people reported missing. It's difficult because communications are down. Authorities estimate it will take months to restore power and phone lines in West Maui. For now, they're racing to supply residents with generators, but didn't say when. The National Guard is also keeping people out of the burn zone for the foreseeable future.
DLNR released video tonight showing dozens of Lahaina's beloved historical sites in ruins. Some of the island's oldest hotels are gone, including the Best Western Pioneer Inn and Theater, built in 1901, and the Aina Nalu Lahaina by Outrigger, the giant landmark ship anchor. Well, that remains in the debris.
The Lahaina Lighthouse, commissioned by King Kamehameha III in 1840, is still standing, but that entire waterfront area is marked with the eerie sight of palm trees with their tops burned off. Charred skeletons of commercial fishing and whale watching boats sit in the water. The longtime Atlantis submarine. This was where the majority of ocean tours in West Maui departed from. And this is what's left of Lahaina's most famous landmark, the banyan tree planted in 1873. It was the oldest living tree on Maui. The Baldwin House and the Richards home, the first Christian missionaries to arrive in Lahaina, burned to the ground.
All are growing weary after searching for days, and communication remains down in most of the area.
I'm Lynn Kawano, Hawaii News Now.
This is what Lahaina on the Hawaiian island of Maui looked like on Tuesday night as deadly wildfires fanned by hurricane winds tore through the historic town.
It's insane when you can feel the heat from this far away.
These videos filmed by local resident Richard Conan show the buildings in his neighborhood engulfed in flames.
It was really, really bad. The big house I walked up to that was just roaring in flames. People were walking around talking about losing their homes and not knowing where to go and trying to figure out what to do.
Have a look-see. This is from a mile away.
3 fires erupted across Maui this week, killing dozens of people and forcing thousands to flee their homes. Conan was one of them. He managed to pick up his belongings before leaving Lahaina.
I managed to get back and get my friends, but I had to get through a bunch of police checkpoints.
Conan left Lahaina, but many residents chose to stay. As firefighters contained the blaze, the scale of the destruction became clear. Some 1,000 structures are thought to have been destroyed as the fire swept through Lahaina. Wall Street Journal reporter Alicia A. Caldwell tried to enter Lahaina, but her access was restricted.
Continue to tear through both western and southern regions of Maui. The death toll has now climbed to 80 people, making this blaze one of the deadliest ever in United States history. And sadly, officials expect that number to continue to rise. So far, the active Lanai fire and a second fire in Kaanapali have burned down many of the town's historic landmarks. Right now, search and rescue efforts continue as an estimate of more than 1,000 people remain missing.
We've heard several reports of people being found dead in the streets, in the water, in their cars, and even inside their homes. There's a desperate search for people who have been unaccounted for, these families who have been trying to reach their loved ones. So it is very tough for people who have not heard from loved ones for several days, and it's just a very devastating situation as that search and rescue will continue at first light. Katie?
Whoa. Dang. Gonna burn all these people's houses, and now it's gonna spread to that. Oh my God, look at that, Jesus, that's crazy.
Huh? Cars exploding. Oh.
To the grim reality of a paradise reduced to ashes. Overnight, the death toll climbed to 80, making this the deadliest natural disaster in state history. Smoke and flames destroyed more than 1,000 buildings. The fires are still not contained. Crews battled several flare-ups overnight. Satellite imagery shows the magnitude of what was lost in Lahaina. Hawaii's governor says the tourist town on Maui's west coast that was once the capital is gone. This morning, questions remain about why Hawaii's warning sirens were not activated to alert tourists and locals.
As search and rescue workers survey the devastation on Maui, the Hawaii Attorney General on Friday launched a review of the county's emergency response, promising answers.
We heard explosions. We didn't know what was going on.
That horror painfully clear in the aftermath.
Residents got into their cars and flooded this street, but they could not outdrive the flames. We're talking car after car. I see several dozen of them were engulfed in flames, and residents tell me many of these drivers actually got out and jumped into the ocean to save their lives.
Thousands still are without power, struggling to comprehend the loss.